2025 Dynasty Championships are built in the offseason. This video alone will get you 10 steps ahead of everybody else. Here are the top 5 players you need to stash as soon as possible, with a sleeper I love absolutely at the end. If you're going to watch any of this video, please make sure it's that. As always, if you're feeling generous, go down and hit that like button, possibly even subscribe if you are new. It'll help you to continue to see these types of videos on your page with statistical analysis. The first guy we're going to be talking about in this video is going to be Malachi Corley. Oh my goodness, this dude is a beast. Like, he needs to be rostered in more leagues. Pick him up if you haven't. With this guy, we have a perfect storm here of a wide receiver on the Jets that are completely blowing their roster apart. Aaron Rodgers, he's a free agent. He's off the team. They went ahead and replaced him with Justin Fields. If you want to call him a better upgrade, you can. I mean, if we look at the statistics, Justin Fields averaged a 66% completion percentage last season compared to Rodgers at 53. Fields had a 5.0 touchdown to interception ratio with Rodgers at a 2.5. Again, all of these numbers, it is what it is. Fields is more mobile. Technically, he's younger. He can actually move and maybe add a little bit of differentiation in this offense with the play actions. He forces defense to not stack the box with immobile quarterbacks like Aaron Rodgers, which makes the downfield coverage that much softer. Now, that's great for a guy like Malachi Corley and these receiving options, who I'd probably compare best to a Deebo Samuel type of guy here. He's an amazing guy in yards after the catch. He will get those dump offs and those screenplays, kind of like what the Commanders did with Yami Brown last season. He's super fast, again, yards after the catch, just minus that deep ball ability. He can do that. That's just not what his game has been in college. And again, this is his second year as a rookie. He didn't really do much in the NFL. He only totaled 6 targets with 2 rushing attempts in that entire season, but he only played 1 game over a 28% snap share and really wasn't involved. You had a bunch of target competition. Speaking of that, now we don't have Devontae Adams. He's off the team with the Rams. Garrett Wilson is coming off quietly what really was a career year for him. Corley will be able to slip into the cracks of the defensive coverage because they're going to be focusing on Garrett Wilson and not Xavier Gibson and all these other lower level wide receivers that aren't proven yet, because one of the best things in football for fantasy, if you don't have NFL film on a player and how they play with the coaching staff, it's hard to stop them. That's why rookie quarterbacks like Joe Burrow, Jaden Daniels were amazing. Even guys like Puka Nacua, there's no film on how they're going to use him in the NFL and what kind of defensive coverages to throw at him, or if he's even good enough to deserve that. So a lot of the times these guys can slip through the cracks, and that's what I see here with Malachi Corley here. And also, the other part of this wide receiver competition, Allen Lazard, he's a free agent. Highly doubt that he's going to come back to this offense without Aaron Rodgers, making Xavier Gibson, again, the only other target competition. He's been on the team. He was there last year. They put him at kick return. They didn't really believe in his wide receiver success on its own. They tried it, put him back there. But again, the wide receiver room is shallow compared to every single NFL team here. The Jets, they have new coaching staff. The roster coming in here is different for 2025. This is the type of behind-the-scenes situation where we can see those potential breakouts for rookie guys or even just unproven wide receivers that haven't gotten a chance yet. Couple that with the fact that he's barely rostered. You can get him for free. Go ahead and put him in all of your notes. Keep an eye on him for the season, because I promise you his draft value and hype is probably going to get a little bit higher here. Now, when you're looking in Dynasty, you want to be stashing running backs because it is extremely common for backfields to change. We see it all the time, and a lot of those scenarios, the RB2, the RB3, the third string guys are one injury away from being a league winner. We see it a lot. Now, with that being said, I'm very surprised Sean Tucker is not rostered in more leagues here. He is a longer term play simply because I do not believe in Rachaad White. Trust that itself. If any of you guys are coming from my redraft channel, you know that I've been pretty adamant about this take. Rachaad White's inefficiency has been an issue even since 2023 when he finished as the overall RB4, despite only having, I believe, 4 touches less than Christian McCaffrey, finished a couple hundred yards below him as far as totals go. That season, followed by last season, he was the RB22. He got pretty much outplayed entirely by Bucky Irving. He just hasn't been efficient, and this is why I am buying in on Sean Tucker here. Bucky Irving was able to be that guy because of the inefficiency of Rachaad White. You can believe that the coaching staff saw that, which is why we saw what we did. And as long as that coaching staff stays the same, which it is this season, it probably will for a while, they're not going to run a workhorse running back system. Most NFL teams in general just don't lean towards that anymore unless you have a generational freak athlete like a Christian McCaffrey or Derrick Henry or Saquon. So there is always job opportunities for these running backs, and why we see, again, these second string guys be a little bit efficient and get some touches in fantasy football, especially when you're talking dynasty terms. You want to be stashing them, and Rachaad White's coming into his contract year. I would not be surprised if they start to get Sean Tucker more involved again, because he is still extremely young. He's 23. This is his 3rd season in the NFL. But last season, he averaged 6.16 yards per carry, 12 targets in the entire year out of the backfield, which is amazing as far as the usage that he got and how involved he was with 3 running backs in here, we cannot forget about his week 6 breakout where he had 136 yards, 2 touchdowns, 17 total touches, only 38% of the snaps. And guess what? He did all of that on the one game that Rachaad White missed all season. If that's not putting things together, I don't know what is. Rachaad White's snap share, as a fact of that, dropped from the 60s to about the 30s in the last 3 games of the season, where he totaled 9 carries in that entire stretch. Like, that is atrocious. Keep in mind, this was crunch time in the NFL. Like, this is when the Buccaneers are playing for their playoff spot, trying to get that seed, and they pushed him out for Bucky Irving. Now, Bucky Irving is an amazing talent here, but we know Sean Tucker is capable to handle more touches. He's in the 95th percentile of strength for running backs, just under the 90th percentile for speed as well. Like, he's a great prospect. I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see him increase his role and Rachaad White kind of start to fizzle out again if he's going on his contract year. Possibly won't be with the team next season. But speaking of running backs and those jobs that are open, Tyler Bidet is a guy that we need to be stashing in our leagues, looking at, or just keeping in general. You might not be thinking that he is a valid option. I mean, there's 1,000 running backs in this backfield. We saw with the Broncos before. There can't be a workhorse guy. Like, nobody's going to be valuable. Everybody gets touches. Why bother with this guy? Well, the answer to that, number one, obviously, Javonte Williams is on the Cowboys now. They lost him in free agency. There's really nobody left to replace that, right? I mean, that's 200 total touches. You'd think that would skyrocket Tyler Bidet and these other running backs' value because he's not there. He's only rostered in 3% of leagues still. He's a completely free guy. This running back room, Jaleel McLaughlin, him, Audric Estime. None of these guys are like NFL superstar running back levels, but this is great because the Sean Payton offense is 100% a committee to the max. Like, there's going to be opportunities for every single running back. Out of any team in the NFL, this is the squad. Bidet only played 2 healthy games last year, and in those 2 contests, he totaled 10 carries for 86 yards. So, yes, that is a very, very small sample size, but the efficiency metrics are there. He was good in college, and he is entering a contract year, so we can definitely expect the Broncos at some point to increase his snap share and kind of see what they can get with him, because if we're looking from a business perspective, you got to see if you're going to keep him and spend the money to bring him back on the team. So it's really just a matter of time until he gets a little bit more run. Now, McLaughlin himself, he's in a similar boat. He's getting touches. He never really was anything behind Javonte Williams, even as the RB1. Averaged about 30% of the snaps. For Estime, his last 4 games after their bye week in week 14, he was averaging 3.1 yards per carry. That was against backups in garbage time of football games. Like, that's not amazing either. Now, this isn't the most clear path to dominance because, again, if you're a young running back, there's going to be some obstacles to get over here. But when you can find a guy like this off the waivers, there's no reason not to go out and add him. As long as the Broncos don't sign another running back in the offseason or draft somebody, we're going to be fine here. If they do either of those things, we can probably cut our ties and wait on him. But with that being said, a tight end here that we are looking at is Theo Johnson. 1000% this guy is going to break out. You want to be rostering him if you can, but people won't go through and agree with this because they went through and got Greg Dulcich. Now, if we're being completely honest here, they got him off waivers. They're not really contractually tied to him at all. He hasn't been a threat in the NFL since 2022 when he was a rookie. He had his major injury. He never came back the same. Now, Theo Johnson, he was having a great season last year with the Giants, all things considered, for how bad that offense was in general, totaling 29 catches, 331 yards, a touchdown in his 12 healthy games. But if you look at those last 5 games when he was healthy before injury, he totaled more than half of his catches. Like, that's where he got all of his usage. So yes, he didn't have a ton of catches on the season-long span, but they started using him a ton in that back half of the year, and then unfortunately he got injured. So he was getting real opportunity before that in week 14. He got his foot surgery. He'll be coming back this season. The Giants are 100% getting a better quarterback. Yes, Jameis Winston does count over Daniel Jones. Now, they did go out and sign him to a 2-year deal. If they decide to run with him for those 2 years as the QB1, it's not terrible. He's been the most pass-heavy quarterback regardless of what team and situation he's on. If you look at last year, he was that, and he helped David Njoku to be a top 3 tight end when they were both healthy on the field together. But if they use Winston as a insurance plan and go out and get a quarterback in the draft, considering how good their pick value is, it's a mini win or a great win. Like, it's not going to get any worse than it was last season. Daniel Bellinger, his only other tight end competition, did absolutely nothing in those 5 weeks that Theo Johnson was out. The Giants more than likely aren't drafting any tight end competition. It's a penny stock that is a lottery ticket if it does pay off. They could go get some wide receivers in the draft, something else to help them out. But again, that's not necessarily tight end competition because tight ends are always going to be used in the NFL. But the part of the video you've been waiting for, if you skip to this part only, I don't blame you. This is something you need to see. My number 1 absolute favorite stash of the year, honestly, is coming right here. It's going to be Will Shipley. You need to go get him as soon as possible. Reason being, the Eagles just went ahead and lost Kenneth Gainwell, their RB2, in free agency to the Steelers, which means Shipley is now next up. Now, that is a huge role to fill. I understand that because obviously we have Saquon as the RB1. He's the best running back in the league, but this is a very valuable insurance role for Will Shipley. The offense is top 3 in every single metric. Their offensive line is the best in the league by a good amount. I'm sure you could run behind this offensive line and average about 3 yards per carry, but something people don't realize is their defense just got a lot worse in the offseason, and they lost a ton of their top pieces, which means the Eagles will likely have to rely on their scoring and offensive efficiency to win these games more than before. Now, when I say they got a lot worse, I mean they're probably going to be about average now because they had the #1 defense in the NFL last year. They allowed the least amount of points. But again, they lost a lot of key guys. If they're about average, that means this offense is going to have to pick it up a little bit and move the pace. But this is an opportunity waiting to happen for Shipley because simply Saquon is not getting any younger. He's 28 going into his 29th season this year. We have to believe that the Eagles will run him into the ground as much as they can. Like at Saquon Barkley, he's the best running back in the league, but there will come a time to where he leaves or retires and Shipley comes into that, and he will be there because he is only 22 years old. He's a 4th round pick from last season, only valued as the RB64 in Dynasty draft. So even in general, as a collective, he isn't valued a lot. So when I look at all these young running backs, evaluating if there is a path, because that's what we look for here, a lot of the times they fall into the dual threat ability category. If you have the ability to catch passes, do multiple things, those running backs turn into the relevant guys that are 2nd or 3rd strings. If you're a running back, you need to do 3, I guess maybe 4 things. Don't fumble, run the ball well, pass, catch, and block. That's all you have to do. If you can do half of those things extremely well, you're probably going to get some more run in an NFL offense despite who the RB1 is. In Clemson, Shipley was a great receiving running back. He was in the backfield a lot. He also was occasionally outside the numbers. Again, this is a guy with a path. Kenneth Gainwell was averaging about 5 carries a game, which is going to now go to Will Shipley as a possibility. If Saquon Barkley does happen to get injured, we can't bank on that, and they just put the 4th round draft capital on Shipley to the team. They have to be ready for that at some point. But that is going to finish out this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I very much appreciate you. All glory to the man above. I hope to see you guys in the next one coming soon.